Welcome back to Nightly Nonsense and Lurking. Right? Some of you are lurking right now as you watch Nightly Nonsense. You're looking for a way to trip me up. You're looking for a way to get me. But don't look any further because I could give you a ton of stuff that you could use for that. Especially if you're a good friend and you are in Arizona soaking up the warmth and all of these kind of things. You already know, right? You don't have to look very far. You don't have to lurk to get me. I'm going to give it to you free. Don't waste your time trying to ambush me, right? However, we talked about last night that the enemy, he's lurking around. I like the word, right? Because I think it really does show what the enemy's done. He's everywhere. He's everywhere not because he is everywhere. He's everywhere because his minions are everywhere. Do you ever seen that? Have you ever seen the person that just happens to show up at the right time, but they're not helping? Right? There's a difference between the person showing up at the right time and they come in and they're like, ta-da, I'm here. Let me help you with your project. Man, I pray for that all the time. Lord, I'm about ready to do this. Please send me somebody to help. Please, 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 please. Usually it's my brother. Please just send Scott. Please, please, please. But have you ever experienced the person who shows up and they're just lurking? They're just there and you have no idea. Come to think of it, why were they here? What did they do? How did they help me? Right? But they're usually busy listening and then talking. They want information. So that the person that is not helping, right, at a potluck dinner at church, they're not helping set up anything. They're not helping do anything. They didn't bring anything, but they're just lurking. They're in on every conversation, and when the conversation happens, they're like, wait, I didn't know so-and-so was this. I didn't know so-and-so was going through this. I didn't know so-and-so did this. I don't know so-and-so did. They're lurking. They're looking for information. The enemy constantly has to collect information on people. You'll be surprised at how often the enemy pays attention to your conversations while you're walking around the store, right? All kinds of things, right? How did that person know that about me? How did that person know this about me? By the way, the enemy is just as able to give you good things, worldly things, as God is. God's not the only one that hears that you need $10 to go to the movies with your friends. The enemy hears that. God is going to give you the $10 because he's a good and loving father if he does that. There's going to be a bunch of mixed up things. The enemy will be like, hey, there's $10 on the table. Don't know whose it is. Why don't you just take it and then you can figure it out later? Or the enemy could have somebody give you $10, but it comes with attachments. Right? Hey, take me to the movies too. Like the enemy, he doesn't just give us bad things. The enemy has gifted a whole bunch of people with a lot of stuff, right? It just comes with expectations, right? He needs and wants information. So we talked about this last night. I want to make this really short, right? You know that the enemy is collecting information on you. He's lurking. He's setting you up for an ambush. Those ambushes come in multiple ways. Let me tell you the first way, thoughts. Ever been sitting in a conversation, somebody says something, all of a sudden, boom, there's a thought in your head and you have no idea where that came from. No idea. You're sitting at home all by yourself and all of a sudden, boom, an idea pops in your head. Where did that come from? That come from the enemy's lurking. The enemy's lurked all day, all week, all month, all year. He knows exactly what you're thinking, what you're crying out for. And so you're the only person sitting home alone on a Saturday night. Where's that thought come from? Right? Where's the thought that you could be out with anybody else? You could be doing this. The enemy, he's going to put thoughts in your head. That's what lurking allows him to do. Number 2, lurking allows him to put words in your mouth. Now, let me make this clear. It's not just words that come out verbally. How about the text messages that you send? How about the emails that you get? That may be an old thing. How about all the other things that I don't know anything about that are on social media? How about Facebook pictures? How about the enemy has you looking at Facebook at just the right time? right? Do you know the chances are, like my Facebook feed comes up, it changes like every time I get off and on. So for me to see some of the posts I do, it's the right time. And do you think it's by accident that I see that? No, not necessarily, right? So the enemy will have you saying things based on what? All of his lurking, right? All the work, all the things that he is collecting, right? Number 3, he's going to have you be somewhere. The enemy's lurking will have you be somewhere where you shouldn't be. Again, we're always talking about God's directing people to where they should be and all these things. What if the enemy could do that? What if he could have you in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong people? He could have you do that. Right? Why? Because he's been lurking all day and he's figured out all this stuff. And so guess what? Let's frame Andy for this. So I'm going to have him right in the wrong place, in the wrong time. Now again, God doesn't lurk. He outright tells us stuff. So he'll be like, Andy, stay home. You get that feeling. Stay home tonight. And the enemy's like, no, you can't stay home. You got to go out. You got to go do this stuff. Right? God says, Andy, stay home. Even through the whole process when I'm disobedient and I'm going out, I'd be like, hey, why don't you go the speed limit, Andy? If you go to speed limit, you're not going to get to this place at this time and the enemy can't use it. But nope, I'm going to speed because I'm in a hurry because I got to get there. Right? What if I pause? You know how many times a day God tries to pause you just so you would avoid the enemy's lurking. So you'd avoid the enemy's result of lurking. What he can build off of his lurking. The enemy can build great things, great moments off of lurking. Right? He gets this information. He can put it all together. He can have you being where you probably shouldn't be. Right? So again, the enemy mimics everything that God does. God works through people because he knows everything. Imagine that. He knows everything. He sees everything. He is everything. The enemy, you know how he builds things? Do you know how he gets things done? It's called lurking. Last example, Adam and Eve, the snake in the garden, greatest example of lurking ever. Did God really say? Where in the world did he get that information? Where did he get that from? Well, you chew on all of that, and I'll see you again tomorrow night on Nightly Nonsense.